Hey, my name's Owen. I'm one of the work runners here at Urbane Cyclist. We have a very exciting video today. We're going to be doing the full product overview of Revelate Designs. And if you've clicked on this video, chances are you probably already know about Revelate Designs. They're probably one of the benchmark brands, really well known for high quality, lightweight bikepacking bags. We've been stocking and selling these bags for close to 10 years now. They're ongoing one of our best sellers. We get tons of questions. We ship these across Canada. And we really want to share a little more information about the full lineup. So this video is going to be structured front to back on a bike. So we're going to be starting with handlebar harnesses, moving our way through the cockpit, frame bags, and then kind of other things along with seat bags. So please use the chapters below to navigate if you want to jump through and see some specific products, and hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. So it seems kind of fitting to start with handlebar rolls because this is actually where Revelate started their brand by making a lot of handlebar packs. So this is the Sweetroll. This is their integrated handlebar roll system. So the harness and the actual dry bag here is as one. You can see we've kind of packed it up to give you a better sense of the overall shape. It actually does have openings on either end, so it's easy to pack, so you can flush out the air, easy to access, easy to clean, which is really great. Really simple construction. All of these rolls are going to come with some really heavy duty webbing. We're going to have double seams, everything's reinforced. One of the features I really like about this is not only do they have nice heavy duty straps, but you also are going to have this initial Velcro. And if you've ever put on a handlebar roll, this is really great for when you're first lining up, being able to kind of loop it, secure it roughly, and then tension it more securely. So each side of these is actually double strapped. There are also some spacers, which are super handy for navigating your cabling on the front of the bike. And of course, we have this little daisy chain. We also have webbing. So if you're gonna strap any additional gear on the front of your bag or front of your bag here, you have lots of space for, extra rain gear, extra stuff. It's a super popular and really great choice. So moving on from the Sweetroll, we're gonna take a look at the Saltyroll and the Handlebar Harness. So you can see this is great, flat packed. We ship a lot of these because they're so shippable, so small, so light. And in my personal preference, I kind of like this style better. You'll notice this is effectively just an open-ended dry bag, but with some nice webbing on it. It's all seam sealed, just like everything Revelate makes pretty well. And then this is gonna be your harness. The reason I personally prefer this style is when you're actually packing it, you have kind of your harness, all your cable management sorted out. You don't have to undo and redo that every time. And then you can move to, okay, you can pop this off the bike. If you're packing your sleep setup, you can pack that down on the ground, roll it up, and then reaffix it to the harness system. So both are great ways to achieve the same thing. Obviously, this doesn't have to go with the Revelate harness if you already have a harness or a support. This is something you can add on with just some very good quality, lightweight dry bag with webbing. So it's really easy to attach and secure to basically any, decent handlebar mount with some straps. I also am a huge fan on this harness of how good quality all this hardware is. It locks in so it won't slip. There's little O-rings for all your management of all your nylon straps. And of course, a thorough selection of foam pads to basically navigate and support wherever it's required. So really clever, really simple, really well made. And a great add-on for this as well is going to be your Egress Pocket. So Egress Pocket is a standalone, but it's also an add-on. So we talked about the webbing on both the Salty and the Sweetroll. And this has some great little features. So similarly, it's a roll top, but it has Velcro integrated here. So you can roll this down and kind of quickly pack it. So it's easily attachable there. You have an additional strap for a little extra load. You'll notice there's actually some little kind of D hooks. And one thing I love about this, and something you got to think about the logistics when you're traveling by bike, is often your immediate valuables, things you would normally keep in your pocket, maybe your wallet, and things you don't want to leave out on your bike if you're doing a quick little errand. This actually comes with a series of little extra straps. So you're going to have some extra little straps, little Velcro webbing and whatnot. But you also have this handy lightweight little strap that you can actually turn this into kind of a small little bag. So really clever and thoughtful, and you can tell the folks designing these bags actually are thinking about the logistics of traveling with them. This is a great add-on, but like I said, it's a great standalone because this is still gonna have some simple straps. So this is designed to fit really seamlessly with both of these bags, but it's a cute little bag just for kind of smaller trips, daily travel if you want. A real great standout. One thing I also love, which I'm going to try to capture on camera here, you can see inside here, they actually do a light colored liner. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, I want black, simple, low key, but having a light liner means you can actually find your stuff even in if you're in a low light situation, which is, again, super practical, really thoughtful design. And, you know, again, it goes without saying, very lightweight. So one thing I will note about any harnesses you're going to be using on your bike is take note of how your cables are managed. A lot of people are using alt bars or back swept bars. Those usually do require longer cables, which can interfere with your ability to run a handlebar harness. So either you may want to recable or adjust how you route your cables, but just take that into consideration. Most bikes, it should be possible. Another thing to think about is if you're running drop bars, how wide are those drop bars? So take note of how much space you have. And another note to think about with all these harnesses, in pretty much everything in the Revelate lineup is going to be disc brake or V-brake only. So when we're talking cantilevers or any center pull, anything with that center cable that may be loose, most of these are going to need to be reinforced somewhere on the front, and that specific routing will interfere with the ability of the bag to kind of operate around your cables and having your brakes functional. So disc brake, V-brakes, all good. Cantilevers, road brakes, not officially. Not to be said it can't be made to work with maybe some road brakes, but you shouldn't assume it's going to fit if you don't have disc or V-brakes. So here we have the polecat. So these are usually best used in pairs. These are a cargo bag effectively. These are designed for a cargo cage. There's a series of webbing here. Again, seam sealed. You can see nice and stiff, so it holds itself up well. So this can be used with any cargo cage pretty well. Again, you're going to do that simple roll top and then close it in just to keep it waterproof. So this is all reinforced. This nice little webbing here, reinforced on the bottom, anywhere it's actually going to contact the carrier, and anywhere straps are going to be going around, they've also reinforced that. So they've maintained a really lightweight, minimalist, simple little dry bag. But again, this goes very much in line with our kind of shop motto of buying it right, buying it once. If you buy a good quality bag like this, these are super long wearing, super long lasting, and of course, lightweight and simple. So we're going to be moving on to like cockpit bags here. And we're going to start by talking about the Mag Tank series. So one thing, I personally was using a Mag Tank for a while I was gravel racing, and a funny consideration I didn't think about was my cable routing. I was riding a Crosscheck at the time, and they have loose cables running on the top that are kind of like a traditional road bike. And of course, if you're using a top tube bag, that's supposed to sit right on top. So if you're trying to do that, take note of how your cables are routed, make sure there's nothing interfering, or seeing if you have to make any adjustments. So with the Mag Tank, we have a few variants. We have ones with straps and ones with bolts. This is actually a super simple bag. I love it just because it's so easy to get into. You open it up, you close it. It's magnetic, that's why it's called the Mag Tank. And you'll notice this is also adjustable, so you can kind of loosen it up if you're jamming a lot of stuff in here. Really easy to operate single-handed. It's just going to strap to the top tube and then usually strap to your spacers below your stem. So super simple, nice and minimal. But we also have a similar variant that is designed for a bolt-on variety. You would obviously have to have a space to mount that. So some modern gravel bikes and kind of bikepacking style bikes are designed with that in mind. It's a great, way to kind of clean up your kind of front end without having to have that additional strap. It also keeps the bag from wanting to ever move. But same style, slightly different versions. We also have, again, bolt-on or strap of the Mag Tank 2000. So the same thing, but it's just kind of pizza shaped. So a little more space. Consideration with this, again, same considerations with cable routing, mainly if you're strapping it on, not if you're bolting on. Most bolt-on is not going to interfere because that's going to be a more modern bike and usually in the style of bike packing or gravel riding. This is going to be a little wider up front, so you want to take into account how long your bike is. This, again, if we're thinking of bike packing as more of a mountain style thing, I would assume no problem with this one, but this might be a little wide on a shorter top tube frame. If it's a longer top tube like a mountain bike or a modern bike packing bike, there should be no issue. Another thing to think about, and a great addition Revelate has done, is they've added the option of a TPU liner. This is something you can get separately and add it, but this means you can easily wash out, you can put something in. I know Lael Wilcox is known for just dumping French fries straight into her mag tank. And obviously it's just nice to be able to clean your bag more easily. I've never really had an issue with these getting too messy, and they do clean up pretty well, but just being able to use it kind of more loosely, not having to think, oh, am I gonna stain this with grease? Is it gonna have a weird dark mark? No, it's got a TPU liner. You can just dump whatever you want in there. All right, and this is probably my all-time favorite. So this is the Feedbag. This is my personal bike. I have the multi-cam version, which we usually don't stock now. Our best seller is the simple black. You know, people in Toronto love black. So the reason I like this is it's kind of, I call it my bike pocket. It's like when I'm riding, even if I'm just cruising around, not going on a big trip, not going on a tour, just around town, if I'm just going for a ride for fun, it can just be snacks, it can be kind of the immediate things, it can be a way to organize your garbage. Anything I would normally have in my pocket, I can easily just transfer to this and not have to worry about things jumbling around or getting my phone sweaty or something like that. What's nice about this actually is, again, classic Revelate design. Let me just... So we have the primary Velcro here, super wide, super sturdy. That alone will hold the whole bag up. But you'll notice there's also a little additional webbing, so you can actually move this left or right. You in theory can run one on one side of the stem, another on the other. It's the same bag. You don't have to have like a left and right variant. This goes on the handlebars and this would be on the stem. Sometimes I've had to put it horizontally if I have a really short stem and just kind of allow it to wrap around the spacer stack. But what really sets this apart is this little strap here. And what this does is this is gonna go through the fork. So up and around, and this stabilizes it. So when you're pulling on this, it's not gonna be going anywhere. You can see I'm lifting my whole bike by just pulling on the bag. One of the most clever things Revelate has done though, is they've designed this specifically to be single-handed. Obviously, if you're riding along, you're trying to keep going, you're trying to fuel, you're using your feed bag just for some snacks, you need something else, you can't be taking both hands off the handlebars. So single hand opens it up, and now this is, again, same style, nice and light inside. Let me see if I can open it a little wider maybe for the camera. So you can see in there, nice and light, easy to find all your stuff. Another couple of things, there's gonna be, this is technically a separated liner, so it does have a floating liner, which I actually have found to act a little like an insulation. I've compared with like the same water bottle, one on the frame, one in the bag, and the one in the frame, or one in the feed bag stayed much cooler for much longer, which was a nice surprise on a very hot day. I really like the fact that this has all these webbing extra pieces. I tend to keep, actually I'm gonna show you, I kind of keep a small multi-tool right up front because one of my pet peeves is if I'm starting on a long ride, I've loaded up my bike, I'm ready to go, I just wanna have something quick and easy to grab, right? And that's what I can keep right there. If I wanna do a quick little saddle tweak, I don't have to like pull open a tool bag, it's just right there to make a small adjustment. So it's super handy for that. Another great feature is the fact that it has all these extra webbing pockets. When you've had a chocolate bar, you've had a granola bar or something, you just have like garbage. Like, what are you doing with that? You just tuck it in there. It's easy to grab, to throw out the next time you find somewhere to ditch your trash, but it's also, right where you need it when you want it. I also do say that this is probably one of the best gifts for anyone. It doesn't have to be a hardcore bike packing person. They're great for drinks, they're great for snacks. I use it basically nonstop on my bike, and it kind of migrates between bikes. I probably should just get a second one so I don't have to do that, but I've had mine for 5 years and it basically has never left my bike since because I love it. Jerry can, jerry can, jerry can, jerry can, jerry can. So in the spirit of keeping the cockpit section cohesive, we also have the jerry can. I only have one of the two variants right here. The jerry can's a very simple little bag, and I find this is, if you're using a full-size seat pack, this is a great small tool, immediate kind of necessity. Good for refueling. Again, same idea, nice and bright on the inside, which I love, super easy to find your stuff. I mean, it's pretty small, you probably aren't losing things in there. It does have a little strap, perfect for like a CO2 cartridge. But one thing I have found with all of my traveling by bike is when you're pushing yourself, you're riding really far, it's good to compartmentalize. So don't put all your tools and all your food together, that makes a mess. I've learned my lesson. it's good to kind of keep your little repair kit separate. So when you have maybe some type of failure you need to fix, you're not digging through your camp setup, digging through your food. You just know where the tools are, you pick those tools off. Normally I keep them on a shorter or a sportier ride under my seat, but if you're running a big seat pack, that tends to shift to like cargo stuff. So this is a great way to, have a little bag that can fit in with, maybe your tools. One thing to think about with this is standover. If you're running a mag tank and a jerry can, you only have a small section of your frame to stand over. So if you're doing more technical riding, that can be a consideration. This is the bent variety. They call it the bent variety. Yeah, and they have a regular, which is more 90 degrees, it will fit in. You can see my frame here has a little support, which in theory, this bent one would be your best choice. It's not a perfect fit on this bike. You can kind of see the angles don't perfectly match, but it would definitely be the way to go if you're between the bent and the regular. I would choose the bent for this bike. All right, so moving on, another kind of transitional bag we have is the down tube bag. So again, this is kind of a tactfully made dry bag, but with a couple differences. So what makes it different? Obviously these heavy duty straps. You'll notice there's actually this padding. You can probably actually see there's a little bit of a contour, and that's designed just to grip nicely, give a little more surface area on the outside of your frame. I ride a steel frame here. Steel is gonna be a little narrower. Sometimes you may find these do need to be shortened because they'll wrap around, which goes for most bags. I think more flat, maybe an aluminum or a carbon frame, are usually a little more desirable for this type of bag. Of course, it's probably not a bad idea if you want to use it in conjunction with a cargo cage, but this can be used as a standalone. It's a great way to extend your storage capacity beyond just the limitations of your frame. One consideration to make though is, for example, this is a rigid frame, there's no movement. So if I put this down, there's nowhere to move. If you have a suspension fork, just make sure the clearance through the whole travel of the suspension fork is not going to interfere with this, because that's not a fun way to cook up your little bag with a lot of tire marks on it. I'm just going to throw this over there now. The down tube bag.
His name?
Down tube bag?
Joey.
Joey! The Joey down tube bag. So if you're curious about the Revelate bags and don't want to necessarily have a full-fledged bike packing setup, I think the Tangle is probably one of the best buys you can get. This is often just called a half frame bag. There's a few different variants of a half frame bag as well. Why do I like this bag? It's if you're on a medium to large size bike, there's a good chance you can still run just a traditional water bottle, and I think that's a really great feature for a lot of people. Again, Revelate's really consistent with their design features here. So you'll notice nice, bright, small organizational pockets on the left side. You'll also notice they actually have seam-sealed waterproof zipper, and even where the zipper is gonna live, the actual pull is tucked into this to keep it nice and streamlined. There actually is a little port here, so theoretically if you want to put some type of bladder with a hydration hose, it can come out. Or if you have potentially maybe a power bank inside of your bag and you have some some type of GPS, or maybe your phone you want to charge on the go while you're using it to navigate. The main compartment on this one is going to have a little loop up top, so if you want to run effectively your small pump up top or some type of repair thing, or maybe some short tent poles, that's a great factor to fit in here. On this bag, you're gonna have the kind of heavy duty straps front and back. Also on the bottom, so you're gonna have head tube, down tube, seat tube, and obviously top tube up here. What's quite clever is this front portion is daisy chained. And why would they do that where other portions are fixed? And this is so you can keep the front nice and taut, but you can also combine this with, we just rummage around off. If you have, for example, a mag tank, depending on where that fits, you can actually operate around it. So Revelate is thinking about how these work together, and they've actually included the fact that this is movable, this one is not, so you can kind of compensate to allow their system to work with pretty much whatever you have. What I will point out with the Tangle, it is sized, and you should take note of the sizing. Don't push the sizing. If you're not sure about how it's gonna fit, take good measurements of your bike, and if you're kind of between sizes, err on the side of small. Why is that? You want it to be taut. You don't want it to be bunching up, because if it's bunching up, it means once you start stuffing it, it's gonna bulge out in weird ways. Another thing is, anywhere that there is Velcro, you want it to be tucked nice and smooth. If you wear any type of spandex or Lycra clothes, if you have rough edges of Velcro, it will shred it very fast. So spandex clothes is not cheap. So it's something to think about and something to consider. And obviously we have, you know, some nice heavy duty nylon Cordura. We also have the X-Pack, nice and lightweight. So these, every time I hand someone this, I was like, wow, it's so light. What I really like with these is if I was doing gravel racing, especially in those kind of spring classic type events, I could always bring spare gloves, I could bring a spare layer, just kind of bundle that up, keep it ready, dry, and ready for if it does get cooler or the weather changes. If I'm doing longer rides, it's great for fuel, similar to the way I'd use a feed bag. So I think this is a great way to kind of keep weight central on your bike, keep things really accessible. And it's also right down in front of you. So when you're riding, you don't have to be reaching off to weird areas. It's super immediate. It's basically your hands are here, you're right in it. You can easily pull off to the side of the road or do it while riding. So it's a really kind of seamless transition from, you know, whatever you need in here while you're riding. And I think that's a very important thing to think about when you're choosing bags. And the Tangle specifically, I think, is a bag that will augment pretty much any ride you go on. It doesn't have to be like, oh, we're going on a bikepacking epic. It's great with that. It's also great with just regular panniers. If you're like, hey, I have a touring setup, I'm more of a road touring cyclist, and you just want a little more storage, this is a great solution for that. So in the back here, we have the hopper, which has a very similar layout to the mag tank, which has that really great, simple magnetic closure that is able to be tensioned. So this is, this is my personal bag I have here. One of the reasons I chose this bag is I wanted something that I could use on a few different bikes. So I have this that works on a touring bike. My touring frame's actually big enough that I can access both my bottle cages and have this. It's an exceptionally large bike. I wouldn't expect that on most, but I use it on my mountain bike. I use it on my touring bike. It's a really great all-arounder, kind of small, half-size bag. And for durability, that's another thing about magnets is there's very few moving parts. So, all this stuff, this is replaceable, so easy to kind of update if you're using a lot or get it muddy or damage it. And this is basically the easiest. You can see how simple it is. I'm barely looking and it just closes. You can hear it click. Since they introduced the hopper, they're having a couple new additions, the sander and the choss. This is the choss, this is the sander. So these are often shown utilizing kind of a more modern or more mountain style, maybe a suspension frame. These came out with two versions. There's going to be hydration and non-hydration version. So you can use it just like I'm using here for extra storage. So you'll notice too, the choss is a little odd shaped. It's got kind of, you know, some interesting angles. Sometimes you'll see it will fit different ways on different frames. This is a little more unique and you may have to do a little bit of a trial fit. This is less easy to size remotely, specifically if you have a dual suspension setup. What is really cool about these though is they are available in a hydration bundle. So you'll see you get a little hose. Just like the Tangle, you have some great navigation for that. There's gonna be some additional routing options with these clips, so you can actually have it run seamlessly out the bag and have this located up on your handlebar. Of course, where's that bladder? Here it is. You get a nice, how big is this? This is 1.5 liters, so 50 fluid ounces. So a quite sizable bottle. And if you obviously have a full suspension bike, that is a ton of water, bigger than most bottles that you can fit. Honorable mention that they also introduced at the same time as these bags with their hydration solutions is what they call the barnacle. So the barnacle is a little 2-pack here of different clips. So this is a great way just to manage, just so you can have that hose not flopping around, not dragging on the ground, just wherever is best to secure it onto your bike. You can have your hydration hose really easily accessible. This is obviously something you can add to something you have pre-existing if you want to utilize some type of other hydration hose that isn't maybe this version that comes with the Revelate, but a really great little add-on, which we'll mention again later. So that sums up our half frame bags, but we're gonna talk as well about more full frame bags. So this here is the Ripio. Funny enough, this is a medium-sized bike, or sorry, this is a medium-sized bag. This bike in the back is a large, and it looks like a pretty good fit, and that seems odd. But what this is more what I would describe as a traditional bike fit, where it's gonna be like a more horizontal top tube, not a kind of, you know, sloping top tube frame. So if you have more of a road fitting bike and you want to do a full frame bag, that's what this is angled towards. And this is kind of like almost like a 90s or early 2000s hardtail style bike. It's not as modern. So even though it is not a more road size frame, if I'm sizing down, it looks like actually it is a pretty good fit. This is a large Surly frame for reference. This is almost like a double-decker version of the Tangle. So you actually do have this lower section with separation. I don't know if you can see that very well. Similarly functions here. That top section has that little divider. It ends in the middle. So you're not putting things up top. They're not falling to the bottom. There's a fixed bottom, and then they can have a lower piece down there. So again, your heavier stuff can be centered in the bottom, and then you can keep this from actually expanding outwards. If you don't have some sort of structure in the middle of the bag, it's going to kind of keep expanding outwards and probably actually touch your leg. So similar as usual, a lot of the kind of same design features. We have these same webbing, which you can migrate it where it's best on your bike. You have these fixed pieces up top to keep it nice and taut, similar at the front on the head tube and then down tube, and of course your large, probably most substantial load bearing variant here, and a little bit of adjustment up top with this other strap. So a super handy bag, more of a true bike packing, like expedition style bag. Most people are not going to use this day to day like they may the Tangle, the Choss, or the Sander, but a very great option nonetheless. Moving on to the Ranger. The Ranger is a little more of a true mountain, like hardtail bike packing style bag. You'll actually notice they try to maximize the space by going a little wider, and this is the same thing. Traditions of road bikes, they tend to have narrower bottom brackets and narrower frames. On a mountain bike, they may get a little wider, and they do flare it out a little at the front because your knees should not be right up at the head tube anyways, so you might as well utilize that space a little more. So same kind of design features. You're gonna have a couple organizers here, see on the bottom. So if you have a couple little essentials, there is also kind of a simple divider that is actually Velcro to both sides. So you can open it and flesh it out a little and make adjustments to where your knees are still clearing the bag, which is a really great and thoughtful feature from Revelate. And again, nice little divider pocket on the left. It doesn't have those fluorescent pockets like the others, but still it's more seamless. Really great for any kind of documents you may have if you're traveling with a passport, if you just want your phone handy and kind of up front. And again, X pack, so it's really lightweight. So this is, I believe, a medium. This is actually a large. So for example, this is actually a great example. We have the Ripio in a large and the Ranger in a medium. Sorry, had that backwards. So here we have the Ripio in a medium and the Ranger in a large. And you can actually see the Ripio does appear to be substantially larger, where the large here would fit this great. And again, if we're going by my go smaller type of thing, the Ranger would be a fantastic fit for this bike. The Ripio, I'd probably want a trial fit before committing to this square of a bag on a lot of things. And here's the same Ranger bag in the small variant. You can notice a lot smaller, a lot less seat tube here. Is this small or extra small? That's just small. So small. But take note of the sizing. Of course, with all frame bags, you're going to want to make sure you fit it the best you can to whatever you have. And I would never expect to be able to fit on every bike unless you have a lot of very similar bikes. I've been lucky with my bikes; they're pretty big, all of them, so I sometimes can get away with it. But yeah, that's the frame bags from Revelate. So the moment you've all been waiting for, Seatpacks. We have a nice little gradient of sizing. A few of these are available in different sizes, but we're gonna start small. Here we have the Stoat. This is just a small, simple little dropper post compatible. So it doesn't actually have any mount that's gonna go to the main body of the seat post. It's all kind of rail focused, which is really great. Reinforced as per usual, 0.8 liters, not huge, but this is a really good tool bag for just kind of some small essentials. It's not a massive cargo capacity, obviously. Similar roll top, seam sealed clasp, really simple. Also, honestly, every time I feel these bags, I'm impressed with how light they are, but you know, 0.8 liters is not nothing, but it's also not particularly small. It seems small in comparison with maybe some of these larger ones we have out here. Another kind of interesting feature is they actually do point out that you can use this if you switch it around to be like a small frame bag, which is pretty cool, especially if you're using like a full suspension bike. You may have some kind of nooks and crannies that are small and compact. The Stoat has been very cleverly designed to do kind of double duty that way. So very good for mountain bikers who want a little extra cargo. It's also one of those bags that's good if you're just like need a little something else. Not necessarily for an expedition, but just the daily travel, the daily rides, you know, just ripping around. You don't want to be weighed down too much. Moving on to the Shrew. So the Shrew again is that same kind of roll top design, but this is 2.25 liters. So it's kind of like the baby version of a lot of that kind of more heavy duty bikepacking bags. And again, you're not gonna have any main mounts here, so it's gonna tuck up, not touch the body of the seat post. So dropper post compatible. So if you need something that's small, but also not too small, the Shrew is kind of that sweet spot. Still has that simple little roll up, compress, and then you have that last kind of closure that you can tension. So if you're having anything that's a little heavier, it's a great way to kind of keep things compressed. Actually, I like navigating it up through there just to make sure it's not going to shift, and you can tension it. And again, they have the O-ring for managing your nylon straps. Super smart, super small, but very capable. And now the stars of the show. We're going to talk about the Terrapin system as well as the spine lock system. So the Terrapin here, this is the 8 liter. There is a 14 liter version available. So kind of like the harnesses we were talking about, and I like kind of drawing the parallels. This is the way I like to pack, where I have my harness system that stays on the bike. So this one does design around the seat post. This is not necessarily dropper compatible. You don't want to be mounting to the seat post if you use a dropper seat post. What I really like though is this super lightweight. This is the 8 liter. There's also a 14 liter, so this is the smaller version. And you can see it's actually contoured in a really great way. What's really cool about this bag though, you'll notice not like the harnesses, it doesn't have the open end. So what do you do with all that trapped air? How do I get that out? There's actually a bleed valve. So you can open that up, release any extra air, compress it as best you can. So it has a little air left in there. But what I like is I'm not reapplying if I'm getting in and out of this. If you're doing like a, you know, more of an expedition type of ride, maybe not you're camping, but you need like a puffer layer because you're riding in cold and it's getting cold overnight. That's a great way to transport some nice lofty thick layers that may have a little bit more space. You can compress them well, get the air out, and every time you stop to get your jacket out, you don't have to reattach it to your bike. You're just doing a couple main straps. This is a really simple system again. Of course, they have that really good lock, so nice, easy to lock. Clasps over. They have some additional strapping as well. Always good to have somewhere else to strap additional items. But I really like this system. It's really clean and small. I'm a fan of having the separated system personally.
Unless?
I was like, how is this so hard to open? Oh, yes. Aha, ha, ha, ha. All right, there it is. Cool. All right. All right, I've unlocked the spine lock system. So this is more of, as much as I do personally like having a separation and just the simple straps, they've kind of updated this to be a little more heavy duty. You can hear, nice and stiff, so it has a lot of structure. When we're talking bags, especially this is a 16 liter bag. So there is a 10 liter variant available, but this is the largest possible seat pack. So keep that in mind if you have tire clearance. You don't want to have, you know, an extra small frame with a bag like this. We'll get to other solutions later. But what's really cool about this is there's basically the actual separated system here. This will go on your seat rails, and then you have this handy actual locking pin that slides right in to lock it into place. So it still is fairly quick and easy to take on and off. Obviously there's some extra stability on the seat post with this big heavy duty Velcro. Of course, same kind of design language we're seeing throughout the line. We're gonna see good style webbing. We have this extra little piece of bungee if you're strapping some additional gear, maybe an outer layer, some rain gear. And even then, you can see this seam sealed webbing, this daisy chain again, if you want to strap anything more, if you want to add a light, all that is good to go. They've updated, I wish I knew the name for this offhand, but this is a different style of system for clasp. These are just really easy to clip in and just a light little press. So if you can see that on camera, really nice, simple, and frankly, massive. This is huge. This is almost as big as a pannier at this point, which if you're trying to go minimal and lightweight, this is much lighter than if you need to have a rear rack and panniers, obviously. Got some heft, but 16 liters is expected. Similar to the Terrapin system, it does also have that same bleed valve, so super handy. The bleed valve almost feels like a boa. You just open it up, lefty-loosey, compress, and then close to seal it all in. Another thing I would point out too is these nice heavy-duty straps, really good quality hardware. And if we're talking design language, you'll notice that this actually does have a reinforced kind of chloroplast bottom. So if for whatever reason this ends up sagging and making contact with your tire, you do have a little bit of insurance before you break the seal on your bag potentially. Unlikely, but as long as you do your fit and trial, you can see this is a large size frame. I'm over 6 feet tall, so there's no issue with a 16-liter bag. If you're not sure, it's best to take note of all the measurements and make sure you have your minimum rail to tire clearances, which Revelate provides all on their website. If you don't have enough tire clearance, that's where some of our additional items come in. They're so cute. All right, so we have the honorable mention. So perhaps you are of shorter stature and you want to keep your stuff sporty, lightweight, and technical, and you don't want to have a heavy traditional pannier. Revelate makes these really simple, lightweight panniers called the Nano Panniers. So these have more, again, design language centered around bikepacking bags, so it's straps, not hooks. We're not seeing a lot of bungee, but we have these nice heavy-duty straps, reinforced kind of where you want them. They do have a little more structure. They have like a back plate, but this is the solution for someone who doesn't have this large amount of clearance, so you can get kind of a more minimalist small rack. I know Old Man Mountain makes some great racks that are minimalist, very adjustable, and then you can have some extra storage on the sides. So the Nano Panniers can handle 7 to 11 liters per side. So actually, using this Nano Pannier system, you actually can have a larger storage solution than even the largest seat bag. So take that with into consideration if you are kind of thinking of how to most effectively pack your bags. Obviously, when we're talking a standalone bikepacking solution for a bike, you're gonna be talking about more minimal, lighter weight gear. I think what a lot of people think is only bikepacking and only more traditional touring, and I honestly think combining the two is some of the best ways, especially if you're on the road. You don't necessarily need to go bikepacking, but some of the things like the Feedbag, the Tangle we talked about are some of my favorite add-ons to even a traditional touring setup. So we had already briefly touched on some honorable mentions. So this here doesn't look like much. This is called the Barnacle. These are the same heavy-duty straps you're going to see on most of the pannier, These are the same heavy-duty straps you're going to see on most of the Framebags, but they have these handy little clips. So this actually is a magnetic clip. So you attach this to your hydration hose and you can lift it up, drink, and attach it again, and an additional one just for navigation. So if you're doing hydration hose management, kind of an essential, but also often forgotten. So those Choss and Sander bags that do come with additional hydration pack options, this is a great add-on for those. And the final and probably most undervalued Revelate accessory, self-bonding frame saver tape. So this is a great clear tape that you can add to anywhere on your bike that is going to protect the paint under your straps. As much as you think, oh, it's just a strap, it's not gonna hurt my paint, the reality is you can see my bike, it's dusty. All that dust is minor amounts of grit. It can also integrate itself into the straps. This will move around. If you have weight, you're going to scratch up your paint or your powder coat on your frame. So this is kind of a no-brainer if you're worried about protecting your bike, especially if you're the type of person who wants to resell their bike at the end of the season, or thinking about their total investment in their bike. So the clear tape is a great way just to kind of ensure you're not messing up what you have. And often, again, it's a forgotten item for a lot of people. So definitely, especially if you have carbon and you don't want to be wearing through carbon slowly over time, the frame saver tape is a must-have. So I hope that helps kind of give a little bit of an understanding of the full Revelate lineup. Obviously, we have to kind of go skim through a bunch of stuff. We have lots more information on our website. We have lots of links in the description. And again, use the navigating menu, use the chapters if you want to go back and check. And please, if you have any questions, let us know in the comments. And if you like this type of content, we got more on the way. So please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. See ya. My throat hurts.